Good evening, Trump's family. Welcome back to my channel. Have a good night, everyone, and God bless you. Alright, without further ado, let's get into the news. Adam Schiff was on CNN and the CNN host turned on Congressman Schiff. This is a sea change, a paradigm shift, a complete reversal of what's taking place the past 7 years. CNN, like Twitter, like MSNBC, The Washington Post, The Times, and an entire public relations monstrosity as a set were all essentially extensions of the Democratic Party. Okay. When Adam Schiff becomes perhaps a political liability or no longer useful to the narrative and Trump was colluding with another country, and that he was a menace to national security, suddenly they're turning on Biden, not only with the classified data and Hunter and repackaging classified data for business deals in the New York Post, and others have talked about that. We've talked about that and discussed that on this channel based on public record, reputable sources. Daily Mail, New York Post, Fox News, CNN even talked about it. But you have CNN now turning on Congressman Schiff. Why is that? I'll read you an article on Fox News. CNN labels Adam Schiff a Republican during rare clash on collusion with that country that turned out not to be true. Quote, that turned out not to be true. After 7 years of endless articles, what happens is they make a false accusation, they pontificate about information that misinforms, they silence any opposing viewpoint claiming that on this topic or that topic, if you believe anything opposing the mainstream narrative, oh, my God, you're a horrible person and lives are being lost. And then what they do is after 1,000s upon 1,000s of articles have been published, when millions upon millions of Americans have been deceived, whether it's Trump working with another country, or as we're seeing now a whole bunch of other topics, which we don't discuss, okay. After millions of people have been fed lie after lie by the same individuals and by the same system that says you better not believe lies. We're now finding out, well, we already knew obviously, but we're now finding out the CNN is turning on Adam Schiff and Biden and others saying, you know what, that turned out not to be true. Trump wasn't working with another country. These are the people, by the way, who won't accept 2016 and they react in righteous indignation that Trump doesn't accept things. Okay. So you have to ask yourself, when these people are talking and preaching and giving the sermons about national security, it was never about national security, be they fabricated and absurd fantasy, that country that the Clintons and President Obama allowed because President Obama did not veto the sale of 20% of U.S. uranium to that specific country, or to a company that eventually sold to that specific country, and President Obama said the 80s want your foreign policy back. The Democrats went in with a reset. Okay. So the Democratic Party turns on a dime, 180 degrees. You have to ask yourself, when they were lying for 7 years, and now they're trying to reverse course and do a 180. And now they're turning on Schiff and Biden. How many millions upon millions of Americans believed the nonsense that Trump was working with another country? How many Thanksgivings were ruined? How many Christmas dinners or New Year's celebrations were ruined because of arguments by the morally superior, highly educated, almost always apoplectic, sometimes hysterical, morally superior, liberal Democrats who felt that Europe was a menace to democracy, and that they had to ruin a family event because God forbid one or two or more than one people at the event were voting for Trump. Because they were insulated. They were in a bubble, a CNN MSNBC bubble that said Trump was working with the Kremlin, when none of it was true. When the Federal Bureau of Investigation agent just recently was indicted, and might face many years in prison, for actually working with the oligarch in that country that Trump was accused of working with. You know, the phrase bizarro world, or opposite day, it's almost like everything that is yelled out the top of their lungs, screamed and shouted. You better believe us. This is true. The consensus says the smartest people, the intelligence agencies, it's almost like it's always the opposite. That's true. It's always the opposite. They're lying to your face. And people will believe smart, intelligent people, and I say this, God bless you, whether you're Democrat, Republican, doesn't matter. I'm not into tribalism. I come with a distinct viewpoint. I voted for Trump because I want record low in poverty in 2019, according to CNN, under Trump, and I want a much better foreign policy. And then, this is some big news. New polling data reveals that Americans believe the biggest problem our country is facing is not inflation or immigration, but the government itself. I knew this. I knew I was right. Right. The American government is the country's biggest problem. According to American polling data, this could be because of leadership, energy crisis, inflation, the border situation. I guess President Ronald Reagan was right. Government isn't the solution. Government is the problem. Now, do you agree or disagree with his polling data? Please let me know in the comments down below. Now, many of you in a poll told me you don't think scientists should attempt to resurrect dinosaurs. Well, today a group of scientists announced that through cloning and genetic science they will try to bring the dodo bird back from extinction. Now, this bird is no T-Rex. But should science be messing with resurrecting an extinct species? Or should we just leave it alone and try to prevent future species from going extinct? I would love to hear from you in the comments down below. Florida Governor Ron DeSantis has responded to former President Donald Trump's attack on him. Yesterday, Trump attacked the DeSantis by referencing the current polling numbers and taking credit for the reason DeSantis was elected to office in the first place. Today, during the news conference, DeSantis was asked about Trump's remarks. He stated, "When you're an elected executive, you have to make all kinds of decisions. You got to steer that ship. And good thing is that people are able to render a judgment on that, whether they re-elected you or not. And I'm happy to say in my case, not only did we win re-election, we won with the highest percentage of votes that any Republican governor candidate has had in the history of the state of Florida." Now, many are saying that this was Ron DeSantis, basically sliding Donald Trump, while at the same time pointing out, "I was able to get re-elected and you worked." So is this a public attack? Are these two going to be the big contenders for the Republican Party against Joe Biden, or whoever runs for Democrats? Or is this just political banter? Now, speaking of Donald Trump, he has just announced that he will be suing journalist Bob Woodward for $49 million. While in office, Trump allowed Woodward to conduct interviews with him for an upcoming book. However, Trump is now alleging that Woodward is profiting off of, and Trump never gave him permission to publicly use it in audio format. Now, if you've been following me for a while, I've reported on many instances where Bob Woodward used these tapes for defaming Donald Trump, from topics ranging from his reaction to COVID classified documents that he shared and many other big stories. While some of the criticism against Trump is valid, Trump's legal team is saying that Woodward manipulated the data or the information and is now using it without permission. With all the recent talks about upcoming wars, Biden has just announced that the United States will not be providing Ukraine with F-16 fighter jets. Biden likely does not want to escalate tension any further as our nation is inches closer to World War III. However, Ukraine has stated that Poland will be sending positive signals towards fighter jets and has encouraged other countries to get behind this. So basically turning his back on the United States and turning it towards countries that may give him the fighter jets he's after. It seems Biden is just trying to ride this line between helping Ukraine and not provoking an attack on the United States from Russia and Vladimir Putin. Tesla CEO Elon Musk has put out a warning that the Federal Reserve should stop raising interest rates in anticipation of tomorrow's big announcement. Musk has said that rates will collapse the stock market further, as well as bankrupt companies, or trigger a stronger than necessary recession if the Federal Reserve continues to raise interest rates. Bill Gates, a man who profited significantly off of the lockdowns and vaccines, has now told a crowd in Australia that these vaccines were no good. They don't block transmission or infection, Gates said. He also praised the Australian government for their extreme lockdown measures, and said they were one of the few countries that got it right. Now, it appears that Bill Gates is a big fan of locking people in their homes, forcing mask wearing and forcing vaccinations, using new technology on people, vaccines that he now says don't really do what they were supposed to do. Now, he said next time, meaning he believes there's going to be another pandemic that will require forced lockdowns and masks. He says he liked to see a breathing technology that you inhale through the nose and through the mouth, in order to keep you from getting an infection. Now, by the way, Bill Gates invested $50 million in biotech right before the COVID virus broke out. And that company got permission to release an emergency vaccine with only a few months of data and testing through Pfizer. He then made over $500 billion in profits and sold his shares right before the stock came tumbling down. Now, I'm sure that making all of this money did not cloud Bill Gates' judgment, although it's a little disconcerting to hear someone made $500 million making humans guinea pigs only to come out and publicly say, these are no good. But I'll let you decide. I'm not here to feed you propaganda. This is what is in the news. And you can make your own decision as an adult here in the United States. Now, but do you think he wanted us locked down because it was for the good of humanity? Or because he was going to make $500 million? Anyway, sorry, you guys make your own decisions. All right, now reports have surfaced that indicate Republican Representative Kevin McCarthy may plan to visit Taiwan later this year. The Foreign Ministry spokesman of China responded to this report stating, "We urge certain individuals in the U.S. to earnestly abide by the One China principle and that China is opposed to any official interaction with Taiwan." After House Speaker Nancy Pelosi visited recently, tension between Taiwan and China have been escalating with now rumors that we could be heading to war. But do you think that Kevin McCarthy should go to Taiwan? Should he stand tall with the people of Taiwan? Or should he bow down to China like other people in our government? Let me know your thoughts down below. Okay, now back in Russia, President Putin has just ordered the development of a joint military training facility in the country of Belarus. The president of Belarus commented on their controversy with Ukraine, stating, "On the one hand, the Ukraine asked us not to fight Ukraine under any circumstance, not move our forces there. They offer us to sign a non-aggression pact. On the other hand, Ukraine has been training and arming people to fight Belarus. While this is true, the only reason Ukraine has been training to fight Belarus is they are terrified that Belarus will join Putin and come to war against Ukraine. So it's like they're provoking each other. Hey, we're gonna train our people because you're training your people. And they're saying, hey, we're only training our people because we're afraid you're going to attack us. So it's basically just gang warfare, right? We're going to kill you before you can kill us. So I'll let you know whether they end up signing that non-aggression pact, or whether Belarus ends up joining Russia, and joining the Ukraine conflict." A new report from the government shows that $5.4 billion of stem of stolen COVID relief money went to only a handful of organizations with access to large numbers of social security numbers, perhaps even yours, right? These groups then fake users in order to siphon billions of dollars off of the US government. Money that could have gone to help real people with real needs really irritates me to report this story. But that's what's in the news today. President Biden has touted his tax credit for electric vehicles on social media. In a post showing a picture of him in electric Hummer, he stated, "On my watch, the great American road trip is going fully electrified. And now through a tax credit, you can get up to $7,500 on a new electric vehicle." Now remember, when he first announced this, Ford raised the price of their car almost exactly the amount of the tax credit? Well, Ford announced yesterday that they are lowering the price of electric cars by around $6,000 in order to remain competitive with Tesla and General Motors. Now, according to Democrat lawmakers in Washington, D.C. wishing to remain anonymous, Democrats are secretly talking behind VP Kamala Harris back, saying she needs to not be vice president next round, and that under no circumstances should they allow her to run for president. They say she has very little political skill, and we'll lose Democrats the election should she seek to run. Lastly, CNN ratings have hit a new 9-year low, after reports indicated that their primetime numbers were well below Fox and MSNBC News. CNN is only getting around 444,000 viewers during primetime showing, which is less than a third of what Fox News is bringing in. So it seems that Fox News is the dominant player right now. Now I personally regularly bring 155,000 to 400,000 views during primetime. So this tells me that CNN is really struggling, if they're just barely doing better than Stephen Gardner running a YouTube show out of his house. Pretty interesting. Thank you so much for listening. God bless. I'll be back soon with another report. God speak to each and every one of you. Thank you for all of your support. Thank you for all of your kind words.